I want to say a big welcome to all of you. Clap for yourself for being here. On the far end, we have the chairman for the 40th anniversary committee. The whole celebration, everything that is happening now, he is the one who is presiding, chairing everything. And so it is very prudent that as we are going to have this discussion, we have him on board. And he's in the person of Mr. Enoch Opon. Let's give him a round of applause. On my immediate left is the longest serving staff in this school. He is also the head of department for the building and construction department. And he's in the person of Mr. Gabriel Mensah. We cannot have this discussion without the manager of this place. Yes, he has also been in this school for quite a long time. He is in the person of Mr. Joseph Nitaki Adams. Everything happens under his supervision in the school. Everything happens under his supervision in the school. Yes. And then, finally, I am going to be the host for this discussion, and I am Mr. Kwanzaa. Yes. Under normal circumstances, I should be saying ladies and gentlemen, but today it is all gentlemen affair. So, gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you.
To set the ball rolling, our anniversary, 40th anniversary, is themed highlighting the importance of TVET for national development. Highlighting the importance of TVET for national development. And since we are celebrating the Tema Industrial Mission, I would want to ask, probably starting with the manager, what triggered the establishment of Tema Industrial Mission?
Thank you very much. I think, yes, you are right to ask what triggered it. I think it was a Methodist congregational pastor. His name is Reverend Joe Bannerman. I think he started all this. He was a pastor in Tema, and in one of his reports, and I would like to quote him, his report, he said, "The heterogeneous nature of the Tema community, its rapid change and growth, vast commercial and industrial development, coupled with the mass inflow of population from rural areas resulted in unemployment, tense congestion in houses, a sudden leap in burglary cases and prostitution. These pose a severe threat to the future health growth of the community." So this was his report in 1950. So in December 1965, the All African Conference of Churches decided that this report must be researched further because this was something he has written. So they need a research on it in order to bring out issues. So they employed the services of Reverend Philip Bloy from the All African Conference of Churches. So he came to Tema between December 1965 to March 1966. And in his report to the All African Conference of Churches, he summed it all up. You know, when you come up with a report, normally you come up with recommendations. Yes, and he summed all his report in 7 recommendations. And once again, I would like to read his recommendations. The first one is that he said there should be the establishment of Tema Council of Churches. So he proposed the Tema, now what we know, the Tema Local Council of Churches. That was his first recommendation. The second was the establishment of an ecumenical center, which he called at that time Ecumenical Center Joint Church. Ecumenical Center Joint Church. His third recommendation was that there should be the establishment of a ministry to the industries and factories. You know, then Tema was a new township, and there are factories and there are establishments, industries here, but the spiritual needs of the people was not being taken care of. So that resulted in this recommendation. Then the fourth one, the engagement of social workers in order to handle the social vices of the township. Then this is where it concerns us. His fifth recommendation was that there should be the establishment of a vocational training school, teaching students in carpentry, masonry, electricals, plumbing, secretariat, etc. So that was his fifth recommendation. So that involves us. Then his sixth one was the engagement of a Christian education officer to improve Bible knowledge in home cells. And then his last was the building of a guest house. So from these recommendations, I think the fifth one is the one that will interest us, because that brought about the establishment of the school in 1981. Because after Reverend Joe Bannerman's report, he then gave it out, and then in 1970, a plot of land was acquired in 1970. So after 1970, then the one who triggered it, as for Philip Bloy, he only did the research for the All African Conference of Churches. So they needed someone who manned the place. So the first person who actually was involved in the purchasing of the land was Reverend Joe Bannerman. And that was, but the school wasn't started during his time. He started the Tema Industrial Mission. And if we say Tema Industrial Mission, don't be confused. Formally, it involves two entities. The establishment of a church that would cater for the spiritual needs of the community, and also the establishment of a vocational school that will cater for the physical needs of the people of Tema. I think that is how it all started.
Wow. We are getting to know the history behind Tema Industrial Mission. Now that we know where it all started from, some names were mentioned. So who are some of the founding members? Some of the founding members, especially when it goes to the time the school was put up and established.
So as I said, in 1970 when the land was procured, that was how the whole thing started. So Reverend Joe Bannerman came in first. He was the first missionary head here. And then he handed over to Reverend E. Ajim Frimpong. He started from so Reverend Joe Bannerman was from 1970 to 1978. Then Reverend Ajim Frimpong from 1978 to 1990. I think this was where the school was established, because if you look at the year, it's 1978 to 1990. And the school was established in 1981. So it was within the period of the Reverend E. Ajim Frimpong's tenure here as the head of the industrial mission. He was then the one who actually started the school. And when it started, the school was known initially as Tema Industrial Mission Crafts Training Center. It was known as Tema Industrial Mission Crafts Training Center. Then from there, Reverend Junior Odonko also took over. And bear this in mind, I said Tema Industrial Mission is not only the school. It involves both the school and then the church. So these two people, Reverend Ajim Frimpong and Reverend Junior Odonko, were both heads of the two institutions, Tema Industrial Mission. Tema Industrial Mission. So the school was taking care of the physical needs of the population, whilst the church was taking care of the spiritual needs of the community. So when Reverend G.N. Udonko was then appointed as the industrial mission head in 1991, in 1992, he proposed to the Christian Council that a church, yes, they want to set up a non-ecumenical congregation. And he was given the approval by the Christian Council of Ghana. That was how they birthed Tema Joint Church. So Tema Joint Church started in 1992. Then something significant happened during that time. 1993, that was when a German missionary by the name Reverend Martin Yeager was brought. So after Reverend Odonko took over 91, 93, Reverend Martin Yeager came. So when Reverend Odonko realized that Reverend Martin Yeager has a background in technical education, which is a carpentry, he decided to push him to the school. So in this case, there was a physical separation. Reverend Odonko was heading the church, and Reverend Martin Yeager was also heading the school. So that started from 1993 to 1998. And during that time, the school's name then changed from Tema Industrial Mission Craft Training Center to Tema Industrial Mission Vocational and Technical Training Center. So Team VTTC. That was in 1993 and 98 during when Reverend Yeager was then the principal of the institution. Then 98, after Reverend Yeager left, then Mr. E.K. Enim then took over from 1998 to 2010. And this case, significant among this was Mr. E.K. Enim was the first Ghanaian principal of the Industrial Mission. The first Ghanaian principal of the Industrial Mission, because Reverend Yeager was a German, of course, so he became the first principal of the Industrial Mission. And he was given some active role. When he took over in 1998, then the school finally then separated itself both physically and financially from the church in the year 2002, where they now have to run two separate accounts. Formerly, as I said, we have only one head, so all money was going into the main account. So it was there that there was a separation. Now the school became autonomous, and then the church also became autonomous. So, and that happened in 2022. Mr. E.K. Nim's main job was the school was then going down. So his main job was to find organizations or government institutions that can help with the institution. Yes, so that was his main primary job then. Then in 2010, 2011, an MOU was signed with the National Vocational Training Institute. So the school's name changed once again from Team VTTC to Team VTI, Tema Industrial Mission Vocational Training Institute. And it happened during the time of Madam Evelyn Ajiman. He was then the acting principal at the time when the MOU was signed. So he left in 2011, and I took over to date. So I think these are some of the heads of the institutions that we have.
Wow. So when manager was talking, I can now see where the name Yeager House is coming from. I can see where Reverend Odonko is coming from. I can see where Ajin Frimpong is coming from. I don't know where Crawford came from. Hey, Coffee House, don't worry, we'll find out where you came from. Yes, so manager has given us some history, but we'll also go to Mr. Gabriel Mensah. Probably there are one or two we may want to add up.
Yeah, I think manager has said it all. As they had this conception and the mind to develop the youth of Tema, all started from the church base. So the Christian Council of Churches and the Economical Council, they played a very major role in the training of the trainees in the institution. I am reliably told that teachers who even came, the instructors who even came to start, were all volunteers from churches who came, were not receiving salary, and then they came together to start the training. And this is how the school started. Yeah, so it's my Industrial Mission Vocational Craft Center or Vocational Training Institute came because some leading members of churches realized that youth life was deteriorating, and therefore they have to stand up and then be able to bring the youth up, train them, and to feed their industries. And this is what they spearheaded up to today.
That's interesting. That is interesting. That is really interesting. So from the history that manager gave us as to the reasons why the school was established, in some few words, what would we say is the mission statement, the mission and vision statement of industrial mission? In some few words, if any student or somebody walks in here and asks, "What is our mission statement?" or "What is our vision statement?" What are we going to say? What are we going to say? Let's take that from Mr. Opon.
Uh, I guess with the history that has been put across, probably my boss would have been the best to spell out the mission statement. But I think our mission statement is simply in line with what all TVET institutions take up to, which is basically to try and train people in employable skills. The main essence of this school is to train the youth in employable skills. Our mission then becomes very simple, that we employ all the needed things that will make us able to reach our goal, which includes our collaboration with even industries. A lot has gone on over the past in enable for us to achieve this vision of providing employable skills. And that has even gone far into where government has put in a lot of resources to make sure that aside the words, we'll be able to put in place a training that will give you the skills that are needed by employees out there. So basically, our mission is to make sure that we are able to provide employable skills to the youth in and around to make them employable, that industry can take them up, and also so that they can be self-employed. Self-employed. Basically, that is what we are in for.
Basically, that is what we are in for. So every training that comes to this place should leave here with an employable skill. It means that when you leave here, you should be able to work for yourself or provide services to others. And now it has been way advanced such that you can even further your education. You can even further your education. So, from what we heard, I could see that the school started with Team VTTC. Team CTC. And then he came to Team VTTC. And he came to Team VTI. And now it is Team TI. It is. So the team has remained constant. We have moved from CTC to VTTC to VTI, now TI. Now TI. I hope we shall remain we shall remain here. But I want to ask my able gentleman here. Since Tema Industrial Mission was started on a mission base, it started with a report from the Methodist missionary, and then it moved on up to now. At what point did government come in the scene? At what point? And why was it necessary for government to come in? Because we know of schools like Don Bosco, which was started by the Catholic and is still being run by the Catholic, some other schools like that. What happened in our own journey that government had to come in?
You know, I came to meet Tema Industrial Mission is actually a church-based mission. And the focus was to preach in the industries. That's the Tema Industrial Mission. Okay, so out of the Tema Industrial Mission, the Tema Craft Center was established. And 1998, when I came, there was this, I won't call it crisis, but the industrial mission was going down. Okay, the industrial mission was going down. The focus of the industrial mission going to the industries to go and preach was dwindling. And so the officer who was here had to be transferred from Tema to Kumasi to go and work there because the workload here is no more needed. And because the school was being supported from these funds that was coming through the industries and sponsorship, it means that there was no money again to pay staff. And that is when the staff started starving. And so there was the need, as manager had already said, for Mr. Ike and him to work hard to be able to pay salaries of staff and also do other day-to-day running activities of the institution. Basically, this is what generated the coming in of the government.
Salaries was being paid from fees, because trainees were then paying fees from where he left off. And it came to a time where the difference between what staff were receiving here and our counterparts in institutions like GES and other technical institutions was so vast. The difference was so vast. So then naturally the teachers will agitate for salary increment. Now when that happens, then it means a committee have to set up. They always have to go out there, research, and then come back with new fees. But there was something significant happening. Each and every time school fees are increased, there is a drop in the enrollment figures. Each and every time school fees is increased, there's a drop. And even at that time, the salaries of staff was not even at par with our colleagues in the GES. So if we have to pay realistic salaries, it means fees will have to be increased further, and that was dwindling the enrollment figures. So it got to a point where then we have to find a partner who will come in and take that heavy burden off the finances of the school, which is the payment of salaries of staff. So that was where then the NVTI, then under the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, was then contacted. That was where they then came in. So that was how the school now went government.
Oh, so that was how government came into the scene.